Just got done editing this interview. You guys are going to love it. Before I do that, though, I want you to know that I'm going to be in the comments for the next 30 minutes or so answering your questions. If there's additional questions you want me to ask the CEO next time I interview them, leave them below. Or if you're just loving the data points I get CEOs to share, click the thumbs up button below. That's your way of telling me you're loving this stuff, and I'll get you more of it. Additionally, again, I'll be in the comments answering any questions you have. All right, for 30 minutes. Enjoy the interview. All right, Jan. Yeah. So take me back to day one. How'd you get your first 100 customers?
So we, it was a challenging considering we were competing with a lot of bigger, much bigger companies, and we didn't have the economies of scales like they did. So it was really me just going to different trade shows and kind of selling them on this concept of technology and fulfillment all in one. It was a lot of, selling the dream while we didn't really have that much to offer, but it was a really high level of service, getting a lot of manual work. And, eventually once the first 10 came in and then the other 10 and then the other 10, we really started building a really good product and a really good technology. And it's allowed us to then make it a lot easier to bring the other one.
Did you find it in any specific place, a trade show, a website, a forum?
Yeah, it was mostly trade shows, a little bit of cold calling. So, went to CES was a big one for us because, our customers are e-commerce or physical products companies. So they typically tend to go to, CES is definitely a good one. That was the first one I went to. A lot of cold calling, just trying to find companies that were local at the time and, giving them a call and be like, hey, let's, we'll get rid of the operations headache for you. We'll take that all in and we'll make this happen. And the first couple of customers just really liked the fact that they didn't have to deal with all this, nonsense of fulfilling orders and having a warehouse and employees. And that's what really helped us, bootstrap and get started, because once you get one, it's a lot easier to get the other.
Mm-hmm. So help me understand today, when you look at your entire customer base, are we talking like small e-commerce brands or like big ones? What's the average customer paying you per year to use the technology?
So it really depends. I mean, there's the small ones and there's the big ones. Like our biggest customer is $200 million in revenue. That what they do, what they pay us, it's about a $30 million deal for us. But keep in mind, it's not just the software fees, right? They're paying us for fulfillment, for shipping, for transportation. So it's so the SaaS fee itself is probably going to be more like 10-20% of that.
Yep.
But yeah, they range from complete startups that literally just do 10 orders a month to people that do 300,000 orders a month.
Yep. So when you look at 10% of that 30 million deal would be like 3 million just on the SaaS product. When you just look at the strength of your SaaS product, I mean, is that like a $10 million ARR kind of business? What's the general size of that?
So I mean, we're going to do about 80 million this year in revenue. So I would say probably 10%, maybe 15% of that is SaaS. So yeah, about 10 million.
Yep. And then what does growth look like? So if you're going to do 80 this year, what did you do last year?
Last year we did 30. The year before we did 10. The year before 4, and then 1. And we were projecting originally to do about 55 this year. Right now it's looking more like 70, 80. So we're probably going to end up the year with somewhere around there. And then we're, still trying to figure out what next year is going to look like. But it just changes so quickly that it's really hard to predict or project at this point.
Yeah. Why did you, with revenue in that range, why did you need to do a $10 million secondary? Why not just pay yourself $5 million out of cash flows?
Yeah, well, it was, it was the two things, right? I think as a founder, I've always had this dream of taking this business to a specific point and then selling the business. And I think it's just when you're profitable, it doesn't keep you disciplined as a founder. And if you bring partners in, you now have somebody else that you got to actually report to, and they bring in a lot of experience from, not just building companies, but selling them and building great companies. And I think that's what really, I had a really good friend of mine that did the same exact thing. And when I heard the deal and I heard how it changed his life, I just figured I would do the same. Like I could eventually pay myself the same amount. It would take a longer period of time because, as you can imagine with this type of growth, like it's not just that easy to take that much money off the table from the company. And so it's something that this just really enabled me to do things that I would have not been able to do and took a little bit of stress away as well. And yeah. it's really about the partners too. Like, the people that are on my board, like I have a board, which I didn't have before. So it
Who
keeps
is
me
it?
accountable, keeps me, there's a couple different funds, but SGA Venture, the smaller guys that I actually like better than bringing on the bigger ventures, because they just, I just didn't get a good vibe from them. This was more of a, they're a smaller $200 million funds, but these guys really know what they're doing. They know logistics, they know software, and they're just more personable, and I have a little more available to me. And that's what truly has been, a great kind of turning point for me, just having these guys available and like making me think bigger. Because before this, it was just me and, some of the mentors I had from before, but nobody really like having that much experience working with bigger businesses. And being in South Florida, there's not a huge startup community, where you get access to a lot of people that have done this. So it's just been great.
So Jen, what's your team size today? How many people?
Well, so we've got about 450 people, different roles, different areas. Our engineering team is about 35 people. The rest is, operations, customer service, HR, finance.
Do you have a lot of inside sales folks? How many like quota carrying reps do you have?
Yeah, we actually don't have that many salespeople. We have about 7 now. So we've been able to build this business with a pretty good, we're pretty efficient in the way we do sales. A lot of our leads are inbound, so we don't do a huge outbound, calling to people. Most of the people that come to us just find us online, and then we can just kind of take them through the sales process and bring them up to, bring them into.
And how many customers are you working with today?
A little over 1,000.
A little over 1,000. Okay. Now, so some of these you put touch on. Obviously, a 30 million dealer, you're going to put a lot of touch on. The average customer, are you happy? Like, what are you paying to get them onboarded?
Like onboarding fee by itself, or like an average customer acquisition?
Okay, average CAC, like fully weighted CAC, salespeople, direct marketing spend, everything.
Yeah. I think we're at about $1,200 or $1,500 CAC right now.
Okay. And what does that mean? You get paid back in how long?
Well, so yeah, that's a funny question, because in a SaaS world, it's kind of crazy because we get paid typically in less than a month on that account, but it's because it's not just a pure SaaS.
You have service fees.
Right. So the SaaS formula doesn't really work as exciting, because everybody I tell this calculation, they're like, oh, well, what the hell? Why don't you just go out crazy and acquire customers, right? But there's a pretty significant carrying cost of every account. And it's, we got physical constraints because we got warehouses, we got infrastructure, we got people. So it's not as easy to scale. Like we're growing as fast as we can, and we're, expanding. It's like Amazon, right? Like there's so many buildings you can build in a year, and that's the constraints that we're hitting. But yeah, our cost per acquisition and how quickly it pays for itself is super quick. It's typically less than a month.
Yep. Now, are you burning cash today? Or are you profitable?
No, we're profitable.
Okay, so you're profitable as you grow. Are we talking like 10% EBITDA margin or like 50%?
No. Well, our EBITDA is about closer to 10. We're depending on right now we're investing really heavily into growth and infrastructure. So obviously that number gets a little lower. But we've never had a single month where we've lost money, and that's kind of been our biggest focus. Just the mindset of bootstrapping has kind of allowed us to do that.
Yeah, I guess what I think of when I hear $80 million in revenue, 10 million, it's 10% EBITDA margin, right? So that's call it $8 million to the bottom line, right? You sold a portion of the company, right? $5 million worth to these investors, when it sounds like you could have just paid yourself out of the profits. I guess what I'm hearing you say is these people add additional strategic value where it's worth it to you to do that.
Yeah, that's one thing, and second thing is EBITDA is not necessarily cash flow. So we've got a lot of big investments that we pay for cash, and so we don't really end the year with $8 million in cash, right? Like that would be a little bit of a different conversation. But so there's a couple of different things that play into it, but definitely having the partners in place has been a huge value. And also that was, when we did the deal was a year ago. So we're in a little bit of a different place now also.
Yep. Very good. All right. Any plans to sell the company?
Well, the opportunity presents itself, always open.
Take me to fantasy land for a second. What would be a number where you're like, oh my God, this would make me so happy I have to sell? It'll be obviously very irrational, but what is it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I started the business, it's always been 100 million. That was like the number that I've always wanted to. I was like, look, I did the math, and I'm like, okay, at 100 million, I can just do whatever the hell I want. And now, when we're kind of around that area and maybe even more, it's just at this point, like, it's not about the number. It's more about what I've built and what I accomplished and what I've learned along the way. And, I'm having so much fun, and I meet great people, and I get to work with amazing people, and like seeing the impact that we have on not just the customers but the employees. It's not really like, I can't really give you a number.
Okay, Jan, let me be more specific. Let's say Shopify wants to get more on Amazon's level, start competing more aggressively with them. They need a physical strategy. You have warehouses. You're someone that they could buy. Let's say Shopify offers you $1 billion to sell the company. So more than 10x your 80 million. Do you take the deal?
I would probably take the deal, yeah.
So say your board would probably, I see you're married. Your spouse would probably kill you if you said no to that.
Right, that's true. Yeah, no, I'm surprised. And depending on the company too, like every company would love to sell to them and work with them for a while to build this into where we need to go, right? So, it's all about the circumstances, but I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
Yep.
So,
all right, let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
Favorite business book. That's a tough one.
You can say none.
None.
Number 2, is there a
I've got a bunch that come to me at this one.
And number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Well, I love Toby Latka from Shopify. He's a great guy, and Richard Branson is one of my favorite guys.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
Asana.
Number 4,
Slack.
And Slack, yeah. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8.
Okay, and what's your situation? What look like, married, single? How many kids?
No kids. Married,
no
recently.
Kids. Congratulations. How old are you?
Thank you. 28.
28. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Don't be afraid to invest in people.
Guys, there you have it. Don't be afraid to invest in people. Shipmonk launched back caught in 2014, did $1 million in 2015, and 2017 broke 10, 2018, 30 million. This year will do over $80 million in revenue. Last year sold a portion of their company for $10 million. They let some VCs in. 50% of that was secondary. Obviously makes a lot of sense for Jan to take some money off the table there to continue to be comfortable and keep building the company from 80 million up to many, many, many more multiples of that. Jan, thank you so much for taking us to the top, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
These CEOs rarely give these kinds of interviews. I hit them hard, I get the data, and I want to do it more. So if you want to get more of this stuff, make sure you subscribe up here. And then additionally, go check out one of my other CEO interviews right now.